Hey, welcome back to the channel, my fellow weather junkies. I'm your host, meteorologist Greg Majeski, your trusted weather source here, bringing the weather without all that social media hype here on your Wednesday, June 4th, 2025. Now, before we get going, we always like to say thank you and welcome aboard any new subscribers here on the channel. And if you haven't yet subscribed just yet, what you waiting for, my friend? Help our little channel out. Go hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content. And if you appreciate this update, leave me a comment down below, give me a thumbs up. It does help with the almighty YouTube algorithm. All right, first I thought we'd go ahead and start out with the latest from the smoke as far as been invading parts of the United States really for days right now. The fires are still out of control across Saskatchewan and Manitoba provinces up in Canada. But the good news, at least for the states are concerned, the smoke is going to continue to move off toward the west and not come in from the northwest. Now, I think this is temporary. I think we'll see the smoke come back at us here a little bit later in the forecast period. And I'll show you why here and when we get to the model data here to kind of explain that. Now, looking at the latest high-resolution vertically integrated smoke, you clearly see the smoke moving out of the northeast. That's some good news there. You see how heavy it was there kind of going today, so it's going to see things improve there. The southeast is definitely seeing improvements there because of the rain threat moving in there from that tropical weather coming in from the south. So looking much better there across a big part of the country compared to what we were seeing like over the weekend, was very pronounced. Now, of course, we're in the hurricane season. It's only the fourth day in. Again, just to kind of put your eyes here, you are right about here. So we're in the very early stages of the hurricane season. Not unusual, June, July, maybe you get a storm or two here or there, but it really doesn't get cranking until we get well into August and September, obviously. And that area of disturbed weather we were watching yesterday, right now the Hurricane Center is taking it away. And the reason for that is it looks like the gist of the moisture or where the circulation center is going to set up is going to be over land, not over water. And then it's going to be quickly moved on out to sea. So not really expected to become a tropical system, just something to kind of watch. You can kind of see this here on the latest high-resolution model data here as we kind of see this moisture coming up out of the Gulf and out of Florida. And then kind of see the spin there kind of over land over here, over toward the Carolinas. So we got something kind of spinning up here, and then this is going to quickly move on out to sea. So not anticipating this to become tropical. It's going to be things kind of wet there across Georgia and the Carolinas. But going in toward tomorrow, this quickly moves on out Thursday and Friday and moves on out to sea. So right now, we're not expecting anything to develop into that zone, and we'll continue to monitor the tropics for any other activity. Right now, looking quiet out there. We have a lot of Saharan dust out across the tropics, and typically we have that, which is not unusual, by the way, this time of year. It's definitely not unusual to have a lot of Saharan dust kick out in June. That's going to inhibit any kind of development right now, so things are looking pretty quiet out there for the next 7 days. So let's go and look at the conditions here close at home. Boy, we had a lot of active weather across the middle of the country yesterday. We're going to see some of it again today, but I'm not anticipating it to be quite as busy as yesterday. Obviously, you're seeing the wet weather here across Florida with that upper level disturbance and low pressure moving inland there. We got a frontal system here in the middle of the country sending out some showers there as well. And we got rains here across the southwest, which is unusual to see rains there this time of year. That is for sure. Typically, that's something we don't see until we get into monsoon season, and we're getting it now. So there's your current surface map. Again, we're going to be watching this zone in here for possible severe weather. It should not be quite as bad or robust as yesterday, but we're going to see opportunities in the day ahead. We're in that time of year when we get these clusters of storms that fire up. We call them, sometimes they can be derechos, big ones, or MCSs, multicellular storms that kind of feed off each other, and they go for great distances. They set up a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings as they get in their path, a lot of gusty winds, hail, things like that. I think we're kind of going to see something like that here in the coming days, and I'll show you the outlook here from the Storm Prediction Center that kind of backs that up here. Now, again, talking about what's out there as far as advisories, again, we're getting rain in some unusual places. California, Nevada, Arizona, seeing that flash flood watches, and also into portions of New Mexico. Got a little bit here across portions of Missouri as well. So heavy rain threat. And we'll show you the excessive rain forecast here in a second as well. See some of that rain near St. Louis. There's some of the rain this morning. They're coming out of Missouri, coming into Illinois. So wet weather from Springfield down towards St. Louis, Jefferson City, getting a little bit of rain, a little thunder here and there, but really not looking too bad. Now, like I said, yesterday was a pretty busy day. We had 199 storm reports, one official tornado so far. I heard there may have been another one up near the Kansas City area near Arrowhead Stadium. We'll see, get that verified later today. But I don't anticipate today to be quite as bad. So a little bit of a pause today for Wednesday, but then I think it steps it back up going into Thursday and Friday, and we'll show you those days here in a second. Well, heck, let's go do it right now. Let's go and talk about this right now. Again, you see that marginal risk along that frontal boundary here stretching from areas of Michigan all the way back here toward Texas right along the boundary. We got one little cluster slight risk there across portions of Texas and in New Mexico. But again, not looking too bad there for your day one outlook. Day two, will fire it up a little bit more. Obviously, this front goes into the northeast, so you're seeing the marginal risk from Maine stretching all the way back in toward Kentucky. And then we got this little cluster we got to watch here coming out of Colorado, Kansas, Texas, and Oklahoma. This area right here, we'll see a slight risk for severe weather. And then this will go on to day 3. And whenever I see something like this, what's going from west to east, what that tells me is you're looking at the likelihood, this goes into day 4 as well, where you're going to see these clusters of storms that are going to form this way, and this is going to kind of race off in this direction. So anywhere in the path of these MCSs, these multicenter storms, you're going to get some severe weather, strong gusty winds, 60, 70 mile per hour hail, and a lot of lightning, brief heavy rains. That's what we're kind of looking at. Let's look at the categorical breakdown for today. Again, not looking bad. Very low risk there for tornadoes there across portions of Arizona and into Texas. So into that zone right there. Looking at your wind threat here for today. Again, you got your pocket in the same general area. Plus right along that frontal system there from areas of Michigan coming back toward Texas. And then going in for your hail threat, also kind of bullseyed out there in New Mexico and into Texas. Day 2 outlook here, look at your tornado threat here, a little more pronounced, so we get a little bigger zone here going into your Thursday. So we're talking about Kansas, into a little portion of Colorado, and in toward Texas. And then the wind threat, that'll be big as well out here. You see that yellow in there? That'll be for Oklahoma, Kansas, and into Texas. And then you see that very long, right along the frontal boundary there, about 5% risk of some heavy wind threat there as well. And then as far as the hail threat's concerned, the little pockets there across the northeast, and again back here toward the southwest. So that's what we got. That's what we got to look forward to as far as the thunderstorms. And with those thunderstorms, obviously, comes the possibility of some heavier rains. There's the flood risk. We got 3 zones we're kind of watching here across Arizona and Utah, here across the middle of the country, into portions of Missouri and into Illinois. And then right along the coast, obviously, from that tropical influence there, a little bit of that tropical moisture coming in across the southeast. So that is your day 1 outlook here for your Wednesday. Let's take a look at the next few days here as you kind of see how things kind of progress. Still looking at a heavy rain threat there in the middle of the country for portions of Kansas, portions of Oklahoma, and into Texas. Obviously, that's where that slight risk for severe weather is going to be. And this moves off toward the east ever so slowly here as we go into days 3 and 4. So for the rest of the week, you're going to be looking at some heavy rains along that boundary. And then we got to watch those little clusters of storms that fire up and move from west to east here across the south central and southeastern portion of the United States. So let's go ahead and take a look at the models here. Let's go first take a look at the NAM model here for the next 60 hours or so. Again, we're going to watch that disturbance there across the southeast, bringing in the rains down here. So obviously, this will remain unsettled down here. We have a frontal boundary moving this way, and then you got these little clusters of storms we get to watch. So let me go ahead and slow this down for you here real quick here. So again, we're looking at going in toward this afternoon. Let me turn on my clock here real quick. I'm sorry about that. I'll turn the clock on here. As you can kind of see here for this afternoon, we're looking at some storms here right along Michigan coming back toward Missouri. So again, that's that slight risk for severe weather here for today. Kind of marginal, really, marginal in that zone. This kind of moves on off. You see the rains there across the southeast. Then we got to watch some storms there. That storm's flaring up going into Thursday. So we got a little cluster of storms here across portions of Oklahoma or going into Texas Panhandle, I should say. Some rains up here toward the north as well. Just moves on off. And we get some more storms. Look at those big storms there flaring up on Friday. So you're going to get these little disturbances going to ride out, and you get these big little clusters of storms, and then they're going to move from west to east, and you got to track these systems here. So they tend to be, again, drop a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings over a spot location, and they move from west to east at a pretty good rate of speed. And that'll be something we're going to watch, not only for going into Friday, but going into Saturday as well. We're going to see a couple of these things I think we're going to have to track here going into this upcoming weekend. Let's go ahead and talk about the rainfall totals. Obviously, wherever these thunderstorms flare up, that's where the heaviest rains are going to be. Right now, you're looking at Missouri. This is going out till Friday afternoon, about 2 o'clock. Seeing the heavy rains here across Missouri, switching back in toward Oklahoma. Here across Texas, obviously the southeast, with that tropical influence, we'll have some heavy rains there, especially across portions of the Carolinas and into North Florida. So that's what we're looking at as far as precipitation is there. Temperature-wise, we're going to see things begin to change here a little bit here as we go through the next few days. What we're going to see is basically you're going to see several opportunities here for watching the cold front kind of cool things down here a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and highlight here your high temperatures here for today on your Wednesday. So let's go ahead and look at that right here. So again, you see that cold front showing up very nicely right there. You look at the 70s all down here. Nice little break from summer. Warmer up out ahead of it though. You see temperatures back in the middle upper 80s. Again, the Northeast was all sitting in the 40s over the weekend. So to see that big flip around is a big deal. Still some heat down here toward Texas. You see temperatures down here into the 90s and across the areas of the southwest Arizona sitting in the mid 90s, which really by June standards is really not that bad. They'll be paying that price later. You know that's coming. Let's go ahead and take it to what your morning lows are going to be like here into your Thursday morning here. Again, pretty warm here in the east. Obviously, you see the 60s and 70s going well up into New England. Some cool air across the Great Lakes and across the west. So that's kind of our battle zone in here where these air masses are kind of bumping into each other. That's where those thunderstorms will be. We continue this going into your Thursday afternoon. And again, really not looking bad by June standards. You got the heat down here in Texas, the southwest, obviously. That's where you typically see it. And in the 80s across the southeast, very hot in Florida, and the 90s down there as well. And then we go into your Friday morning, and you can kind of see what things are going on here. So a little cool across the Great Lakes, but most of the country, overnight lows-wise, not overly bad, except for the Intermountain region, high plains, and the Great Lakes. That's where we're going to see the cooler weather there. All right, so let's talk about the overall jet stream pattern here. This is the European model here. I got it kind of looping here. Over the duration, over the next 2 weeks, we're looking at forecast trends here, okay? So what's trending here is we still continue with this active storm flow here across the northern portion of the United States. So you see this drop down coming here. This disturbance here, and I want to back that up, this disturbance here that's coming out of Canada here going into this upcoming weekend, this is why I think we're going to see, again, more smoke coming down this way, because I think what we're going to do is we're going to that wind flow is going to come back out of the northwest. So we're going to be bringing some of that smoke and fires back in the United States coming into this upcoming, going into early next week. So going into Monday and Tuesday next week, it's coming back at us. So just prepare for that. We got a couple of little systems that are going to come on through here. So we got this one coming, you got this first one here, initial one coming up this weekend, and then another one behind that. So it looks like a couple of opportunities this weekend and early next week where we're going to see that northwest flow reestablish itself. And that'll bring in some stuff. This will also bring some active weather we have to watch there across areas of the Ohio River Valley going into next week as well. But overall, you still see these little disturbances coming out of the southwest and out of the west. And as it does so, they weaken, but they do set up opportunities for severe weather. For example, going into here the long term, going into Friday here. This is 10 days out. But when you get these little disturbances that keep coming out, you're going to get little flare-ups of thunderstorms each day. Now, the overall trend here still looks like we're still seeing more and more orange on the map. That's high pressure. So the trend here looks like we should see things begin to dry a little bit further north. The southern portion of the United States still looking pretty wet to me, especially over the next 7 to 10 days. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the models here. Let's go ahead and look at this real quick. Let's switch over to this. Again, you're going to watch these little clusters of storms. This go into Friday. We already talked about going in through Wednesday through Friday. So again, these little clusters of storms, you see that kind of going into Tennessee, going at 2 o'clock on Friday, and then moves into the south into Friday night. So again, you'll see these disturbances are going to ride west to east, and with them will be clusters of severe weather. They'll be going into Friday, and we're going to see it again going into Saturday. Here's another cluster going into Saturday, coming east and moving west here again. There it is on Saturday afternoon, and then moves off the coast. So you're going to get these series of disturbances. They're going to ride across the south central and into the southeast. So again, you folks across the southeast, just watch out for these pockets of severe weather. We're not talking all-day rain event, folks. We're talking about just opportunity or windows for severe weather that once they hit, they'll move off, and that'll be the end of it. So there we go, going into Sunday again. The southeast looks very unsettled. Here's that disturbance, by the way, coming in across the northeast. So going into Sunday, you see this little dip here. You see this right through here. This is where the winds are going to come back out of the northwest here again. That's going to bring that smoke back down here going into Sunday. So we got a couple opportunities this weekend and into early next week. 2 shots with 2 cold fronts coming down. That's going to bring in that smoke threat. So this moves on off to the east with that frontal system going into Monday and Tuesday. And look at the southeast, continuing to stay very wet going into Tuesday and going into Wednesday. So again, it looks like very wet across the southeast. I wish I had better news for you guys. Everywhere from the Carolinas all the way over to Texas. Looks like a pretty wet next 7 days that we have to watch there. Now look at your precipitation. You're seeing that here across Oklahoma, Texas, and into Missouri. Seeing that, 3 inches plus there in the purple across the southeast, Georgia, Carolinas, Florida. So it looks pretty wet. Northeast looking at some decent rainfall totals as well. Inch and a half here over the next 7 days. Looks like the only dry place is going to be out here toward the west from the northwest down toward California, northwest staying unusually dry. A little bit of rain again across Arizona and New Mexico. This is really blows my mind to see any kind of rainfall into the Four Corners into early June. It's very, very unusual, and it looks like that'll continue. And that'll definitely help with some of that rain. They're dealing with the drought conditions there across the Southwest. So any kind of rainfall, especially getting it in June, they'll definitely will take it as they're looking at the rain that'll be falling into those zones. So let's go and wrap things up looking at your climate outlook here. As again, we're looking at that cool pocket there in the middle of the country. The good news is this is going to start to alleviate here a little bit. Good news to bad news, depending on, I guess, how you look at it, right? So again, that's good looking at basically your June 9th through the 13th. And then as we go a little bit deeper, you notice it goes away, except for the West Coast. We got some cool air there in the West Coast a little bit. You see that little blue there showing up here across California and into the Northwest, but definitely warmer here. And we're looking at really seasonable temperatures across the Southeast as we go deeper into the month. So we're talking about the 11th through the 17th. Now that 6 to 10 day outlook across the Southeast, that looks very wet. From Texas over to the Carolinas, this looks to stay pretty much on the wet side down here and across the Northeast. Still dry across the Northwest. We saw that. That was definitely staying true here on the long range model here. And going out to 8th to the 14th, it's still wet across the Southeast. We're drier into New England as we go toward the middle of the month. And it looks like we start to get a little bit of precipitation here returning up toward the Pacific Northwest as we head deeper into the month past the 15th of June. So some changes coming your way. So anyway, good news on the tropics. We don't have to worry about anything tropical imminent. So that's looking quiet there for the next 7 days. So you folks don't need to worry about that. I wish I had better news on that smoke forecast. We get a little bit of a break, but we're going to get more of that smoke to pile back in the United States. So you folks with lung problems and things like that, you're going to have to worry about that coming in this weekend. Looks like Sunday. And again, going into next week, we've got a couple rounds of some of that smoke coming back down again. And you folks across the Southeast, you got some severe weather pockets we're going to have to watch, and it'll change day by day. I expect the Storm Prediction Center to perhaps change that outlook, maybe even bumping it to enhance potentially, depending on how the storms fire up. But those will be tracking again from the south central United States into the Southeast, especially starting tomorrow and then going in toward Friday and Saturday. The next 3 days are looking a little bit active there in the severe weather department. Again, if you guys appreciate the support, I appreciate you guys supporting the channel. Please pardon the throat issues. I'm still fighting a little bit of some allergies there, so it's kind of tough to talk when your vocal cords want to get all jacked up for me. So I appreciate you guys putting up with me on that front. All right, that's y'all's update for now. You guys take it easy, be good, stay safe, and we'll see you on the next update. Till then, y'all have a great and safe day. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.